Hi there, folks. My name is Will Meredith. I'm with ACCC's Enterprise Architecture and Development Group, and I'm pleased to introduce Simon Makajewski to engage in a great conversation with us all about inclusive environments for security and productivity.
All right, welcome. Thank you very much, Will. In this presentation, we'll expect a lot of interactive work. So don't get comfortable after lunch. Hopefully we'll be able to keep you on the toes. But what is interesting about our work is that we work with machines, but then we also work with people. Blackboard is a unique system that requires that faculty opt in, that they choose to use it. So we work a lot with faculty on this adoption process. And what we find about workforce in general today is that it is different than it was during the Industrial Revolution when today's companies were designed. There's a great book by Daniel Pink called The Drive, where he talks about the rewards and the engagement and the work goals that were set during basically time when factories were the main way to produce things, being quite different to what's needed today. See, we're knowledge workers. IT employees are knowledge workers, which means that our minds are our tools, and they have to work really well most of the time. And so what we'll talk about today is how to create an environment. Think about it maybe as a cooling system. You know, when you have servers, you have to keep the environment at a low temperature. How to create an environment where the mind can freely do its job. So we're going to talk about some of the research that is being done today specifically for the classroom. Because the same research that's done on how to engage students actually works for knowledge workers too. So we're like perpetual students. Right? We continue to work, and then the technology expires, you have to learn something new. So some of those tools are going to be useful from the classroom research. To get started though, I'd like you to bring out your phones, and I'd like you to navigate to a website. And so the website here is going to show up on the screen momentarily. All right, just a moment. Here we go. So it's kahoot.it, and you go ahead and put in the PIN number. We'll take a moment of time here to make sure that everybody is able to log in. You can choose a superhero name if you want to. Superman might be taken. So do it as personal as you choose. This is going to be your avatar for the session. And you can win. Okay, we actually are going to keep score at the end of the day. So you might win. All right, so we have a few people joining in. Excellent. We'll give it just a moment.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, what we are going to do is called peer instruction. If you think about it, if you could do it during meetings, like IT meetings, right, or sales pitches where there's a PowerPoint presentation led by PowerPoint, right, you probably would enjoy those meetings a little bit better. You can join later on. If your phone isn't working at the moment, you can join later on. The key is this number, 764260. You can ask someone next to you later on if you by any chance get disconnected. Well, with this in place, we'll go ahead and move to the first question. And the first question is going to be about security. So here goes the first question. That was loud. Sorry about that. So how much data is believed to be stolen? All right. First of all, the questions can be only so long. So sometimes the grammar is not all there. Okay? But the point is that in this hack, by the way, how many of you have heard about this hack when Sony and Sony got hacked? Okay, a few of you. It was pretty popular, right? About 40 gigabytes of data ended up being posted to Pastebin, basically a place where hackers put the information once they acquire it. But 100 terabytes was believed to be stolen. Now, to steal 100 terabytes of data, all right, how would you do that? Any thoughts? If you were about to take 100 terabytes of data somewhere, please.
So online, it's probably a disgruntled former employee.
Okay, now why do you say disgruntled employee? Where do you get this?
Because they have to have deep knowledge of the company, get that much data, and disgruntled because they must not have left on good terms.
Okay, maybe they're still working there. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a thought, please?
I would take that data very slowly, under the radar.
We had a project here at UIC. We were transferring 3 terabytes of data from Chicago to Virginia. Internet 2 connection. All right, specialists on both ends. It took us months. And we still couldn't do all of it at the end of the day. Okay, so 100 terabytes of data. Was it 90 terabytes of data that the University of Illinois has in terms of email? Right? So think about all the email for a number of years at the university, all the attachments, that's a lot of data. I personally think that the only way to do that is to carry some hard drives out, right, physically, because to transfer that over the internet and for someone not to notice it and to maybe transfer it over the wire to another country, now I want to see these specialists because we couldn't do that, right, even though we wanted to. Okay, so we will talk more about the Sony hack. Let's move to the next question. Congratulations, Max. You won this round. So you have to be quick and you have to answer correctly. We go next. What kind of unusual data was stolen from Sony? All right. So I'm going to zoom in on this little piece of article, and here is why I think this hack was very interesting. 100 terabytes of data is stolen, so a lot more than I think you can do over the network. And then primarily the data that was posted to Pastebin had to do with HR information, like who got the raise, and what were the details of negotiation of this actor versus another one. Most of the time when there is a breach, social security numbers, passwords, you can sell that data, right? But why would they specifically, out of whatever they stole, paste all this HR information out online? Another detail here would be that initially, when all the computers went down at Sony, there was no ransom conversation. Initially, it was all about stealing the data and making it public. Only after a while, suddenly these hackers said that, hey, you can't release this video, this movie about North Korea, right? And they made it sort of political, and if you do, we're going to post even more information. To me, it was like a decoy, I think. All right? Now, the government also looked into the situation, all right? And they felt that there were some other forces that were taking the lead here. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. All right, let's go next. All right, Max, you're on the ball. Look at that. Next. So who did the FBI suggest to be the Sony hackers? All right. So the FBI, under a lot of criticism from hackers in general, continued to claim that it was North Korea. Now, I do want to introduce a little bit of the security education here, so let's talk about the other answers. Script kiddies are people, most commonly today hackers, who basically download a program from somewhere, and they hit start, and they break somewhere. Because you can download these rootkit programs that are basically built by the real hackers, and then they use people, young people often, a lot of the anonymous group turn out to be teenagers, right, who push the button. And so we call them script keys, basically unaware of what they do or the full gravity of the situation. Because in terms of the law, if you take a rock and you throw it through a window at the store to steal some shoes, right, or if you steal information or you break in, there really isn't that much difference. So people are not aware that sometimes behind this protection of anonymity or what they feel is anonymous behind the screen, they are likely to say more, and they're likely to use programs that they don't understand really the impact of. So let's script keys. Black hat hackers. All right, so we have white hat hackers and black hat hackers. Often they're the same person, depending on what they do. Black hat hackers are ones who are destroying maybe systems, who are stealing data. They are doing the illegal things, the things that they don't have permission to do. White hat hackers do the same thing, only they have permission to do it. You will find a number of videos on YouTube if you would like to search. There's a number of conferences. There's a Las Vegas event that gathers a lot of hackers, but also security specialists. And there is a GERCON in Michigan. In those videos, you will find that white hat hackers call someone at an organization and they do social engineering, where they will talk to someone until the person gives them the password. And if you think that's impossible, just listen to those videos because these people report it. So white hat hackers are often asked by a bank or by a security company to go ahead and evaluate the perimeter or evaluate, if people are educated in terms of social engineering. The most common way to do that is, hi, I'm from the help desk. And we're just trying things out. How was the upgrade? And then eventually someone will ask you to change your password. And sometimes basically the person just tells the technician their password. Okay, let's move right along. So, moving forward. Excellent. Me. Next. So here it is. James Thomas, security analyst, suggesting 2012. Okay. So, now my picture was a decoy because security research is really difficult to do consistently, right? How do you decide who is behind a hack? We saw this earlier that I think the evidence points to internal employees with a Sony hack, but the FBI says it's North Korea. So different researchers take different angles on this. James Thomas thought 20% or so was external threats. In this research, which is done by McAfee and Intel, they thought that about 21% of internal employees did this on accident, and 22% on purpose, right? Took data and then distributed it. Because of security being, privately often held, there are certain rules about when companies need to divulge that they've been hacked or not. A lot of these hacks are not reported to these researchers. But this brings an important thought here, is that if you are an IT person and you thought, hey, why do I need to know about inclusive environments? Okay, one reason would be because our environments are insecure when we produce people who are desperate, people who feel they are out of place, and in a minute we'll see how that is actually happening today. So let's take another look here at the next question. Let's go next. Excellent, the mystery person. So now from another barrel here, harassment that uses technology involves teens and preteens. Okay, excellent. So very nice answer to this one. Notice that phishing, right, is what we struggle with at university a lot. You get an email, and it looks like something valid. You click on the link, and the page looks like a bank, or it looks like Blackboard. You put your credentials in, and you get wrong password message. I do that all the time, fat finger something, right? So then you try it again. By then, the hacker's already redirected you to the original system. So you try it again, and it works. But by now, the first entry is already stolen, and your username and password is saved out somewhere. That's what happens today. Again, on YouTube, you'll find a number of hacks for Blackboard where students installed a keylogger on a workstation like this one before the class starts. And so from then on, every keystroke on the computer is sent to a device of the student. And some of the videos show reports that students would change grades for years afterwards. Okay? So, security issues are real. Phishing is there. Cyber extortion, big deal today. There was a hospital where their data was frozen. Someone hacked in, froze the data, and the hospital paid $13,000 to release the data. But something about their customers dying, and so they settled and they go ahead and did that. But it can happen on the personal level, where there's a message that says your files are being encrypted, right? To get your files back, send money through Western Union, and that's how it's done. So that's cyber extortion. Trolling also happens. Does anybody know what trolling stands for? All right. Anybody willing to share a comment on what that might be?
Harassing. It's basically harassment. You follow somebody and you just keep saying mean, nasty things about them or about their ideas.
So it's like drumming the same message. Flaming would be another way to say that. Where basically this happens a lot in the gaming industry, right? Related to IT, deep issues with gender inequality and harassment. So a person continues to, under their own name sometimes, continues to post discussion posts, and basically makes life miserable for someone else. So trolling. All right, very nice. Let's move along. All right, we'll get the mystery. We'll find the IP address. We'll somehow figure out the mystery person. Right next. A well-intentioned comment which causes a negative emotional reaction and causes harm. All right. So, quite a few of you have heard about microaggressions, and this research on microaggressions comes from classrooms. Here's what researchers found in the classroom. When you are a person in a minority group, you sit in the back of the room, all right, and you see perhaps in a STEM intro class, you see that all the other students are white. And then someone says, this test that is going to be taken, women do particularly poorly on it. Now you might think that a comment like that does not make a big difference, but the research shows that it does. When the comment is made, women actually perform poorly on the test. And the reason for that is that while you take the test, your brain, or parts of it, continues to think about, I'm going to show everybody, and that's not true. Women can do really great, in math. So you overthink every question. You still continue to spend your, time of processing on this stereotype that you know, and it was reaffirmed at the start of the class. So that's called stereotype threat. And as part of that, the research takes place on these small comments that instructors sometimes make, or sometimes students make, that turn the brains off for other students. So an example here in this picture is of a microaggression. Oh, I wouldn't have expected you to be a science major. Now, microaggressions are well meant. So I could say something like, hey, you're really smart for a black person. Right? Now, I might mean that as a good thing, right? I'm not racist. Because at the conscious level, no one wants to think about themselves as racist or gender biased. But those little statements that are well-intentioned are going to affect other people. Now, they might not say anything because, you know what, it's not worth it, right? But it is like death by 1,000 cuts. Right? Eventually, you carry so many of these comments that they do affect you. So this research comes from classroom environments because, universities really care to get the best out of their students. But it applies to IT environments. Because our minds have to work at highest levels in meetings. You shouldn't be afraid to make a comment and to feel like, hey, my views are not going to be respected as well as someone else's. Okay, so microaggression is the first thing. So the two reasons that I'm going to give you to look into these matters is, one is for security, right? Again, we don't want to produce people who are disgruntled because that is the highest risk that we carry as organizations. And two, inclusive environments will help employees to be productive, right? So if we are not paying attention to microaggressions, then we're going to shut down certain people. Let's move along. All right, Max on top again. Excellent. Next, I'm not racist. I have several black friends. All right, so here is an example, right? Now, cyberbullying today is illegal. Some years ago, no one heard about cyberbullying. In fact, 50 years ago in the South, you could do all kinds of things that were not viewed as illegal. The authorities looked the other way. Today we talk about these microaggressions. They also are not illegal today, right? I would think that ethically they are not good, they're not correct, they're unethical, but they're not illegal. So a lot of these statements happen all over the place. Here's another one. You don't sound black, you sound smart. Right? Now, this particular campaign was ran across a number of universities. Harvard was one of them, where basically students would hold up the sayings that they hear, and they say, no, I'm also Harvard, or I'm also another university, to show that what we say really matters, even if it's well-intentioned. All right, let's move along. All right, Max, excellent. Now, describe status that someone is born into, such as gender, ethnic origin. Okay. So here's how bias takes place, right? First, we have some differences within the community. Then, there is a preference that's shown towards this difference. Then, out of that, there's privilege that people are often not aware of. Right? In other words, when you walk down the street, maybe you've never had the experience of people locking the door as you pass by, right? Or you walk into an elevator and women are clutching their bags, right? And that is an experience of many people. And so we're talking about privilege then, that you are not in these situations. And so power comes out of privilege because, again, your mind now, being a knowledge worker, is free to explore and to investigate the matters that involve your job. All right, let's move along. What may be the result of ignoring microaggressions in the office? Okay, so this is a big deal in the classroom, right? Because in the classroom there are many inexperienced individuals, not professionals, and they might say something, this party was so gay, or the earlier one, hey, your English is so good. And when the faculty don't speak up about it, they actually are part of the reinforcement that was okay to say. But in our meetings, right, a lot of times things are spoken well-intentioned. And so the responsibility then on the part of people who are socially aware is to speak up about that. Because again, people are not doing it on purpose. They just sometimes have difficulty seeing it from another perspective. All right, let's move along. All right, so now we're back to the culture of IT. All right, so this take on IT, and if you're in IT, you might follow me there. If you talk about a security officer, they have to be conservative because they're protecting things. The most secure computer on campus is the one that's turned off in the middle of a room that's physically, wrapped in some kind of a foil. Network engineers, right? The network needs to be secure. It needs to run well. If nobody connects to the network, it'll be the best, right? It will work at its highest capacity. But then there's another group of people, like developers, who basically have to continually release new functionality. They talk to customers. They have to make things insecure. And so we have these two groups of people, and when that happens, in meetings, there are different interests. And so within this idea of different interests, I want to mention de Tocqueville, Alexis de Tocqueville, who happens to be a French person who visited the United States back in the 1800s, who looked at what democracy does to people. And because of our IT environments and organizations becoming more and more democratic and more fair, I think that this applies and it's important to take a look at. He talks about 5 main things in his book. But let's start with the first one. One, that democracy breeds materialism. Now, why does it do that? Well, in countries where there is a king and there's a peasant, right, the king doesn't have to make any more money and the peasant will never. So money is not object of many conversations because it's pretty clear who will have money and who will not. Whereas in democracy, where we are all equal, suddenly a book is really good if it makes money, right? If a book doesn't make a lot of money, doesn't sell well, it probably wasn't a good book. So in IT environments, we look at compensation, and it becomes a big deal. And it could be a cause of conflicts. Number 2, democracy undermines the freedom of mind. Now, I find it quite interesting and eye-opening back for the times when this research was done, because de Tocqueville noted that people were trusting that the democracy system was fair. It was more fair than some of the other systems, that's true. But now, because of that, people gave up on critical thinking, and they would trust newspapers. They would trust, basically, the information that was filtered to them. Now, today, I think we can see that very well. We're fed by television as far as political process. We're fed on all kinds of subjects, and we have a level of understanding that, hey, what we see is validated information. The third thing that de Tocqueville mentioned is that democracy breeds envy and shame. Now, why would it do that? Consider this. If we're all equal, and just a minute ago we talked about how not a lot of people feel that things are equal. There are a lot of people feel that they are being transgressed against with microaggressions. So our goal is really for this equity. But when that does happen, suddenly we are the only ones to blame if we're not successful. In the past, again, when there were kings and peasants, it was pretty clear that the reason why I'm not a king, and the English monarchy pointed at it, God wanted them to be kings and everybody else to be peasants. And that was clear. No need to find the guilty party. But today, because everyone has the same chances to be in the NBA, we often will say to the kids, hey, just put your mind to it, and you can do it. And he called it a delusion, which experience quickly corrects. And so within IT environments, we too have feelings of shame, we have feelings of careers that are not progressing in the right direction. And all of those can add to the security problems, to the productivity problems. And one of the things guaranteed is that this will continue to get worse. Okay? As we increase equality, those feelings of grief and envy and shame are going to be part of the system. All right, let's move along. In 2008 and 14, studies found that women leave computers and tech industries in droves. Okay, so this is actually a turning point in this presentation, because so far I only theorized that inclusive environments are important, that perhaps making things feel like we're all equal, but in life things just don't work out as we wish, and we are often emotionally not prepared for that. Do a little internet searches afterwards, but you'll find a number of articles with this title, that women are leaving engineering fields. Now here's the paradox. In K-12 and in introductory college classes, there's a big push to get women into STEM courses. And today we graduate about 20% more women in STEM sciences than men. So they do. They join STEM sciences only then to leave the industry. Why? They mention work climate. Now, this is a concern, again, because just like a canary in a mine, right? This is a symptom of certain activities, certain attitudes, all right? And this is something that we should all be concerned about. Now, obviously, gender is only one element that causes big divides. But specifically in IT, there is a number of expressions that sometimes are being made during meetings that indicate the gender difference. Can you think of any expressions used about technology that have to do with gender?
There's like male and female parts to computers.
Okay, yeah. And then there's one called gender changer. That's its technical name. When you go from one to the other. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Not necessarily a technical term, but the term guys.
Okay. Explain what you mean.
Well, I was speaking to a room meeting. What do you guys think of this idea? And it's a mixture of both genders. The implication is you're talking to everyone, but really it's for women. I think you're talking to men because it's masculine word.
Okay.
It refers to guys.
I appreciate what you said, and I'm guessing that a lot of the men in the room go like, I never thought of it.
Yeah. And then women use it too. I mean, it's been a common term used by both genders, but really it's very specific on that.
Okay.
When you say, we're hiring an IT guy, you're very clear. That means you're looking specifically for a man.
Mm-hmm.
And women will not apply for that position.
So notice that in this discussion of the inclusive environments, we talk about microaggressions. So something that is being done unintentionally. Now that is very important because it's like having bad body odor. You may not be aware of it until someone talks to you about it, and then you're fine. You take steps. So what you just said is one of the things that that the research notes. So in our opening slide, I hate PowerPoint, but I felt I was required to use the PowerPoint template, and so I did. But if you write down this URL, it's going to take you to my Twitter post that has really nice research paper about what we're talking about. Okay, and I have other posts on my Twitter account. So what I want to do now is just show you really briefly the post here that, right here, ways men in tech unintentionally, right, display these feelings. And number one is what you just said, right? So using guys meaning people. But there are other ones. Here is using mom, right, as an example of non-technical user, right? There are others. How about, hey, this technology, that's really sexy, right? Again, very commonly spoken, just basic terminology that's being used. All right, so just a number of expressions that again we're not aware of. Now, I still compare this to research on the classroom because there's something that Dr. Bloom in the 80s found about teachers. And Bloom's taxonomy, might ring a bell to anyone who's working with faculty. In that research, he said that teachers are frequently unaware that they are reaching a small amount of students in the classroom. Okay? Because if as a teacher, that's how I was taught with PowerPoint, there's nothing else. That's what I'm going to do. And so this is what happens today in IT. We come from small teams. It is only recently that IT teams have gotten larger. And the situation even gets worse. Let's go ahead and move to the next question here. All right, Cheryl on top. Excellent. So here is the sad part of our backgrounds. All right, this book, Good to Great. If you are in IT, you definitely should read it. It's sort of a foundational book for leadership. But level 5 was supposed to be the highest level, which means that this executive has humility, that this executive has sensitivity to building empathy. And what Jim Collins then says is that the irony of this is that the animus and personal ambition that often drive people to positions of power stand at odds with the humility required of level 5. So what he's saying is that to become a manager, just the first level, right, you have to have the elbows, and you are going to be good with technology. You're telling the computer all day long what it's doing wrong. And the computer is perfect in terms of logic. And when you do that, you're programming, you're telling the computer what to do, you develop certain mental schemes that when translated to people don't work out well at all. Right? Because people hate to be dealt really logically all the time. So, I think that's the sad part about our environments, is that by design, what Jim Collins, who is an authority basically in business, found is that we are lacking really the people to choose from for executives. Because as we are building up this managerial system, we are doing so based on the short-term benefits. Okay, let's move along. Cheryl, excellent. Last question. Acknowledging that microaggressions exist and learning how to confront them can help us. All right, so everybody got that right. These 9 steps, they appear in one of my recent tweets in that research article. And basically, they help us to make the next step to add to an inclusive environment instead of adding to the lack of awareness. It is really difficult to change deep down, right? When something becomes illegal, we can avoid doing it. Think about speeding, right? You can avoid doing that. You know that people might be, police are more likely to be in this area than others. But deep down, change is really difficult. And so, what we are encouraged to do is to take just the next step, perhaps just recognize the microaggressions and be more aware of what we say. But overall, this is sort of a long track, and it's not going to change overnight. But you can't manage something you are not measuring, right? We know that. If you don't measure something, you can't change, you can manage, you can influence it. So at least, coming out, we can have a little bit motivation to do a little more research, to listen to what those microaggressions are, and to process them. Does anybody have any questions? Any thoughts? All right, well, let's see who won. So that's important. Next, so Cheryl did well on this question. And, no, wait, that's the scoreboard. So Cheryl, you won. Excellent. Look at that. So consistency, very nice. And so we appreciate that. All right. So thank you for listening to this presentation. There is plenty of excellent material out there. I will say right away that there is a large group of people who disagree that microaggressions exist. All right? And that needs to be said because there is plenty of people who feel like, hey, this is just political correctness, this is being oversensitive, and yet we see that it causes women specifically to leave the industry, all right? And it makes our systems insecure when we are not creating these inclusive environments. So that's why it's important, and that's why we need to take a little care in studying. Thank you very much, and I hope that everything you say is going to encourage people and build them up so that they can work at 100% of their capacity. Thank you.